Barker's Heating and Cooling, proud to be the official heating and cooling provider for Aggie Athletics, earning your seal of approval since 1979. Now, a lot's changed since then, but our pride in Aggie football and our commitment to providing great service remains as strong as ever. Barker says, "Gig 'em, Aggies," as we open up the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. Presented by Capital Farm Credit, we are here at Rudy's with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. Kevin Menchow, by the way, is our engineer. He's the one who makes me sound really good. Jimbo actually thinks I have someone voice things for me. And if I could, I probably would. This has been a heck of a week for me now.
Santa Claus is watching now. Don't be telling the fib. It's getting close.
It's getting really close. You know what? It's a little cool out there. I won't mind a little cold. Right? Yeah. Jimbo, UMass coming up this Saturday, a chance to step outside of conference. Yep. The way schedules are, and as you have been coaching, you have gone through, once you hit conference, you go right through the conference. You've seen championship games. Do you like the non-conference being in November before the final game of the season?
Yes, and I mean, you want to stay in your conference games, but don't. I mean, it's a game. And see, here's the thing for us. I'm prepared the same way if you were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers or you're playing Alabama, you're playing LSU, you're playing Arkansas, you're playing Mississippi State, whoever is. To us, there's no difference. Right. I mean, and people say there is no difference, and there can't be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So a game's a game, and it is what it is. So
if we've talked about this before, if you go in and disrespect an opponent, you say that the ultimate respect is giving the opponent your very best.
Yeah, and you got to. It's giving you give your opponent your very best. You give yourself your very best. I mean, there's I keep saying that, and we're sitting here, and we have won the games and been finished, but there's still a standard of how you got to think, how you got to play, how you got to prepare, how you got to do things, and that standard. You're getting a chance to play a football game. All right, you're guaranteed 4 12-game seasons when you play. At 48 games. Mm-hmm. That could be the last 48 games of your life.
Right.
If you get bowl games, whatever you get, I mean, enjoy them, maximize them, and be about yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And then your opponent, you respect them by playing your best.
You've always said 7 times at home, so 7 times 4. You only get 28 times out there on Kyle Field.
And that's a special place. And their seniors get 2 more. And our guys better play their tails off for those seniors, and they will. Yeah. They've said it all week. And, we were juiced and had energy in practice. I mean, a lot of energy in practice. Good on good and everything. They were getting after it today. They really were.
I wanted to ask you that there's a time when we've talked about this in coaching with you always said what? You should be a psychology major if you're going to coach?
Oh, you always get
But you're really teaching more now because they're getting it. You don't have to constantly remind them any longer out there, right? So you can teach a little bit. As often.
Why's my head hurting then? Why's my head hurting then? No, you do. And as they get it, and they see the things they got to do, and they know. But you're there, you got to push them, you got to remind them. And everybody does. Everybody's got to have, you got to have somebody there. It's like a workout partner when you're working out. Working out by yourself, you push yourself. But you get somebody there, somebody you always can push, and somebody can get in your ear and motivate you. And, those relationships. And that's what I keep saying about sports. It's the greatest thing. We want to play, but it's being part of a team and having somebody there that pushes you, motivates you, and you try to do your best for. But, they're getting better, and we're learning to practice, and it's small increments, small steps at a time, and that's what you got to do.
You talk about trusting the process. There's so much that goes into that word process, does it not?
It's the way you think.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way you believe. It's the way you then it's the way you execute and do what you have to do on a daily basis. It's not always just ball. There's an adage, and I believe this wholeheartedly. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And my old man used to say it when I was a kid, and I thought he was crazy. It's just amazing. Like I say, the older I get, the smarter they get. But there's a standard in which you got to do things, the way you got to take care of your body, you got to take care of your mind, you got to rest, you got to study, you got to take. Everybody says, well, your academics, and you got to stay on top of your academics because here's what happens. What happens at the end of the season? I always told our guys that, and hopefully from now on we'll be playing games that we're going into the playoffs and things like that. But that, in the future, but we're not right now. But it doesn't matter. I mean, when you don't take care of even your academics. You let it back up on you. All right, the end of the season, all of a sudden you still got to go do them. So the overload of staying up 2 or 3 in the morning. How's that wear on your play? How's it wear on your thinking? How's it wear on your mind? Everything you do affects how you play, and then it affects your schoolwork, affects your personal life, and everything you do. When you learn to manage your time, be the best you can be, do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to be done each and every time, and have the discipline to do that, it's amazing how much easier life gets.
You have said time and again that football players really are they're doing 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Especially in season, correct?
Yeah, and you don't have time.
Right.
Listen, the normal student life for a football player, or anybody. Really, it doesn't exist. And I don't mean that as that. You can do some normal things sometimes, but you're a full-time student, you're full-time ball. There ain't a lot of time for anything else. You have to rest, take care of your body, do the things you got to do, and then you got family and friends, a little bit of time you do have. I mean, it's a full-time job, and that's the way they have to look at it, and they have to be that way.
Your academic people, fantastic group, by the way. But is that part of that time management as well as the tutoring?
Listen, get in there. I always say this. Get in there and do your tutoring. Get in there and do your study halls. Get in there and do that stuff. And you spend that hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is you got to do. It's amazing how much more free time you got. You stay ahead of the curve. You ain't trying to make up all the time. You're not trying to, you're not chasing your tail because you're caught up and all that. And there's things happen. We all did in academy. Some classes are tougher. Some classes make you struggle. Some classes make you do a lot of different things. But you got to stay up on those things, and that affects how you play. That affects how you play. I mean, the energy you have, the mindset you have, everything you got.
And that's part of that development.
It's all the process. The process is about doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it at the highest level you're supposed to do it. And the people who get that, the quicker they get it, the more success they have. And I always talk about the Patriot way, the Patriots, and they did this, and them guys all leave there and say, well, it wasn't that fun. No, but I tell you what winning was. Football's not fun. Right. It ain't fun. It's fun when you win and have success. It's work. It's work and success you do. I mean, if you're having a successful job, how much fun is it? I mean, how much fun are the people that are in our services right now? When you go to boot camp, you train every day. You get up every day. You do your job every day. You go to work every day. We enjoy going to work, but it's work. And then the greatness of it is I'm very good at it and have success at it. I'm able to take care of my family. If you don't learn that now, what are you going to do when you get in the real world? When you got kids, family, and everybody else at home.
As you always say, you revert back to your habits.
You do, and then bills come in the house in your name. You got to pay them. They're coming looking for you.
Third and long ain't so hard any longer.
No, exactly.
Right? Exactly. He is Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, playing UMass on Saturday at Kyle Field. 11 o'clock is the kick for that one. We'll have much more of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit, and this is Aggie football from Learfield. Rudy's is a proud sponsor of Aggie football. Be sure to stop by your local Rudy's or Rudy's.com for some real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoked meats, delicious sides, and Rudy's signature sauce. And don't forget, Rudy's serves breakfast tacos every day until 10 a.m. This is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. And we've done this before, and I'm going to do it again. You and Buzz Williams say a lot of the same things. Sometimes it's the different language. But he said something, basically foresight is the overarching theme this year for basketball. Last year it was rooted, which reminds me of what you always said about the habits. Your roots are your fruits, he always said. But it's foresight here. And he did this on foresight, which is like the pulse, just smaller. And it's a little insight, if you will. But here is Buzz Williams talking about the analogy of your life, one step and a ladder.
So I'm working for this handyman, and we're roofing a house. And I don't know how to explain to you what roofing a house is, but it's like the hardest job you can have. So I'm trying to be smart, and I'm trying to carry the hammer, the shingles, the 2x4, the nails. I'm going up the ladder, and I fall, and I lose everything. The nails go everywhere, the shingle, paper stuff breaks, they go everywhere. He comes down the stairs. He goes, you know how do you get to the top of that ladder? One step at a time with what you can carry, not more than you can carry. We finished that day, and he goes, if you never work for me again, this is what I want you to learn. To get to the top of the ladder, it's one step at a time. But when you're not accountable for that step, you can fall all the way to the bottom. So when you start trying to skip steps, you can fall and hit bottom. And when we start trying to do too much or trying to act like this step doesn't matter on the way to the top, we're going to fall off and we're going to lose all the stuff. And that applies in your life today. We just need to take one step on the ladder. All of us. You need to be the best version of yourself. Whether you're going to play, not going to play. You have a role to help our team, our program, get to the top of the ladder. Everybody needs to be the best they can be. Period. We're trying to get to the top of the ladder. but we can only get there one step at a time, and that requires maturity. And when you don't do your job, you're trying to skip steps, and you think that somebody is going to protect you. Guys, I'm not going to protect you because I'm screwing you for your life. If you don't realize, take one step and be accountable for one step.
I thought of you immediately.
Yeah, I mean, do your job. Be where your feet are. Where your feet are on your focus and concentration on what you do and how you're doing it. And no matter how trivial you think something is, it's not trivial. It all adds up. It's all part of the collection of what you're doing, what makes you, and everything you do. I mean, think about this. Take a vehicle, for instance. It's complicated, which we've screwed them up so you can't. I don't even have a clue. I used to be able to halfway fix something. I could never work on a vehicle, ever. I was the worst mechanic in the history of the world. But, I mean, from nothing but a loose spark plug wire can stop everything from running. I mean, think about it. You got all these computers, all this thing, and a spark plug wire that comes loose can shut everything down. And that's the point of what we're doing. You got to be where your feet are. Everything matters. Everything you do makes a difference. And sometimes those things slide by, but eventually they catch you. And you can't take anything for granted. And I always, my term for that is be where your feet are. What are my feet doing? And my mind's got to be into what I'm doing at that present time. So whatever it is, it's very important. I wouldn't be there. So do it the best you can do it.
If you want more reps, be the best on your kickoff return or punt return. If those are your only reps. Or
goes back to the advice Bobby Bowden gave me many years ago in coaching. Coach, when I was at Sanford, how could I get up there? He said, let me tell you what, he said this, I always say this, and I remind a lot of young coaches too. He said, I never got a job I applied for. He said, every job I got, somebody came and wanted me for it, and I said, well, why was that? He said, because I was doing a real good job at the one I had, and I quit worrying about the next job. You can't control going to the next one. If you do a great job, people will recognize you. And sometimes other people get recognized first. Okay. No, don't worry about that. The other coach, the other player, he got picked to start before you did. Okay, just go what? It will eventually happen if you keep doing what you're supposed to do. That's the best advice I ever got in coaching. The best advice I ever got in coaching.
It applies for everything, right? Not just coaching.
No, just
right?
In life, period.
Yeah.
And the classes you're in, the world you're in, the job your parents give you, whoever your employer gives you, whatever.
Because you have talked about your father, Buzz, talking about this handyman in Van Alstyne, Texas, right? Why is it that blue-collar people give the best lessons in life?
Because it's what America's made on. America ain't made on the rest of that stuff. America was made on blue-collar, hard-nosed people who do the bulk of the work and do the right thing, and that's what, they're real people that have to do real things, or guess what? They don't make it. They haven't had that. The opportunities to make money, whatever those things are. It's like I said, they have to work every day to make sure they can pay the rent, they can pay the bills, they can feed their family, they can pay the mortgage, or whatever it is, to keep the car they got, so they can go to work and do what they got to do. And they have to.
And that ethic is why you go in the office as early as possible every day. Not for yourself. It's for those. We're going to get to the 9 seniors, right? Scholarship seniors,
exactly
but
right.
It's for all of them, right?
Exactly. It's who you are, what you are, and in your DNA. You are what. Dog don't bite when he's a pup. Dog don't bite when he's a dog. You are what you are.
That's exactly right.
You can learn. Now, you learn and do it, but the work ethic, the energy, all those type of things, it's in you. Or it's not.
He is Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. They take on UMass on Saturday. Much more to come on the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit, together we're better. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road, here in College Station with head coach Jimbo Fisher. Rewinding to Saturday against Auburn, everything seemed a bit off. Wasn't that something just off?
We couldn't get in a rhythm on offense and make some plays and get a penalty or miss a throw or drop a ball. It's a block. We couldn't. And that's my, as a coach, you got to find those ways to get your team back in gear. And defense, we played well in points, got some turnovers, still gave up the rushing yards, bounced some averages, and had a critical penalty or two, and we had them pinned back that we didn't need to do. But it's fought and battled. We just got to find a way to make those plays, and that's our job as coaches.
Heck of an atmosphere Saturday night. Yeah, we talked about it before at Jordan-Hare. How'd Connor do in that role?
Good. As far as the poise, and that didn't bother him. He handled that very well. Great poise, composure. Could come over and talk on the sideline what was going on, what happened, even if he made a mistake or he didn't make a mistake or what went on. And really, he's going to be really good.
And No Devon A-Chain, unfortunately, but
Yep.
you've always sung the praises of Amari Daniels and Le'Veon Moss.
Those guys are going to be really good players, too. And like I say, they were ready to play. And, we have as many snaps early in the year in our offense. Now we're getting rolling. We can rotate more guys. And you can see they got a chance to be really good players.
Those runs at the very end for Amari, I know that was the only touchdown.
They're both very natural with the ball. They are, and they're both hard workers. They're both great. I mean, they're going to be really good players. They really are.
You get Le'Veon as well on special teams, right?
Oh, he's he tell you what, he worked. You talk about a worker, and he doesn't say 2 words. Yes, sir, no, sir, and just busts his tail. He goes at it every day.
You know me, I like to go out and practice and
you're out there.
See how that is. And Jimbo, he could be talking with the running backs and then the quarterbacks and then the tight ends and then someone on defense and this and that. When you have that kind of likability on a team, we talked about this before. There's that cohesion. This isn't a group of cliques pointing fingers
it's
at
really
one
not.
another.
And that's what everybody said about this team. I mean, we haven't had the successes we want to have, but it's still a very tight-knit team that works and practices and likes each other and does everything it wants. I mean, it busts its tail. It's not a broken group of guys who want to point fingers and do that. They're into everything collectively, and it's as strong as, in this situation, it's really amazing. It really is.
You've always been big on that, right? Offense can never be against defense.
No, you can't.
Like
You can't divide. You have the unity of things, and y'all work together in special teams. And the only way you get to where you're going.
And part of development, what you want next for them is to experience the winning, right? All this to pay off.
We got to get
them
there and get them to success and get the results they want. We got to stay true to the process, and we got to do a better job as coaches, putting them in that position and educating them and teaching them and getting them there.
And doing it the right way.
Exactly right. Doing it the right. Like I said, you can't skip a step.
No, and it's funny because that was a line that I'd always heard with Pop and the Spurs. You don't skip steps. I told you the worst thing that team could do was win sloppy.
Yeah, well, it is. I always tell people say that when we win sloppy, they say, "Uh-oh, you're in heaven." You know what I mean? Because
as a coach,
you can really push and challenge, and they got the results and they get it, but you can't accept. It's always a push. Good enough is never good enough. You're never perfect, and you got to push for. That you strive for perfection each and every day. Knowing full well we'll never achieve it, but in the meantime, we find greatness. That's the old Vince Lombardi quote, and it is. You have to think now. Is that a grind to think that way? And it's hard. Most people don't think that way, and we have to get there. We have to get there, and I got to get them to understand that and get there. And
it's not like this team wants to rush to the finish line now.
No, they're ready to play. They're ready to play this week and play these 2 games for these seniors, and we got to play really well against UMass. They do a really good job. Don's, like I said, he's been around a long time, caused a lot of problems on defense with his looks and blitzes and different things he does. Offensively, they're the same way, and he's been around a long time.
His second go-around there, to get someone like that. I looked at their roster. I'll talk about this a little bit, but it reminded me not just the transfers. We'll talk about that, but you look at the different cities, and you've always said, if you can play, a college will find you.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no hiding today. You might not have seen as much, but with social media and everything out there, everybody finds everybody.
They certainly do. UMass on Saturday, 11 o'clock. 10 o'clock for our St. Joseph Health pregame show. We have a question that we will get to after the break. Steve's going to lead us off about the seniors. That's when we return to the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Howdy, Ags. Andrew Monaco here, inviting you all to visit Costa Vida Fresh Mexican Grill, Baja-style Mexican, made from scratch daily, serving breakfast tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie-owned and operated by Holly in South College Station. It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. They're checking in from Corinth, Katy, Longview, Brownwood, Texarkana. Walt Curtis is in Monterey, California.
Wow.
Did the same thing on Monday. Ian in the front row, yeah. Oklahoma City, Coggan, Iowa, Indiana, Georgia, and, of course, Matt and Jane Lou is checking in as well. Effie and Olga from Melbourne, Australia. We thank you all for doing that. To the question, Jimbo, you have 9 seniors, 7 senior walk-ons. How do you like to honor the seniors?
Well, you give them the respect they have on that day, but you honor them by how you treat them and the things they do and what they've done for this program. It's a lifetime commitment they've done, and they'll be part of this family forever. And, it's great to accommodate their success and what they've done and being here, but it's also a sad day too.
It is, isn't it? Is that why you like to do it the week before the final game?
I do, and I think now the way this schedule is, sometimes these I started doing that back at the school was at with Florida State. Some of these other places I started doing it because the end games are such rivalry games. Mm-hmm. The kids get so emotional.
Yeah.
And I've had some of them get so emotional in some big rivalry games that it overcome them. You know what I mean? It actually bothered them in a not a detriment way, but just and I said, you know what? Let's do it the next to last one. So we're started doing it like that.
I mean, they're still emotional. Right?
They're very emotional. Yeah. It's not, but it added to the rivalries and all that stuff. Usually, everybody's last games are those huge rivalry games.
Yeah, I know. On one of the podcasts I got to do conversations, I asked Dalen Mack about his last game as a senior. And he said, yeah, I took my time going down the tunnel out to Kyle Field for the last time. And then Atara Laka said, no, that wasn't the case. He's just slow. He was the last one out of the tunnel. Dalen made it sound real good, and Atara just popped that balloon real quick.
Don't ask your buddies. They tell you the truth now.
Yes,
their buddies will tell the truth on you now.
Steve followed up with, our senior class is going to be smaller because of the portal, do you think?
I do. I think between going out early and the portal, I do. I really do, because when you start getting to your senior year, you have if you can play and you stay, and if not, and I hate to say this, but if you got 1 year left to play and you're not going to be an NFL player, I mean, you want to stay and do it, but I do understand that part of it. I'd like to play the last year, the only year I could ever play if I do go. If I'm not in a rotation, I'm not playing and all that. But unfortunately, I think that's true. I really do.
Does it change roster construction then for you?
Oh, totally construction. That's why I say you're going to see younger and younger rosters, just like you have in college basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the old third, fourth, fifth year guys, man, you don't see that anymore. And like I say, the athletes, it's like in college basketball. I mean, they're athletic and more, but there's something to being a veteran. Or something to knowing how to play and how to do things, and you know what I mean, and how to prepare, and been through the ups and downs, been on the road, understand what that's about. You know what I'm saying? All those things, but that's going to be, that's just the way college football is now.
And the hard thing in college basketball, Jimbo, if you have a one and done, he's looking for what's after that year. I'm not sure they invest. Now that's unfair to all the college basketball players, but to me
they're invested in their season to getting better because the next team they're getting to, but they're invested. But not like you're saying you're putting roots here for 4 or 5 years, or I'm staying here for 10 years. I'm staying, like when you move somewhere. I mean, I don't mean that, and it's no disrespect to them. That's just. And it's not their fault. It's the nature of the game that's being played today.
Right, because they can't jump straight to the NBA yet. They used to be able to. They changed that to just following those rules. So, but those, as we said, the 9 seniors, the 7 walk-ons, I always get a thrill when you get to see the families, because
you do. There's a lot of memories, a lot of history. There's a lot of everything in it. And, it's a rewarding time, but it's a sad time.
Yeah, it really is, because, like you say, this is what you've dreamed of.
Yeah, well, and your relationships you've built with each other, and them being somewhere. Anytime you move, you've been somewhere and you invested so much, you put so much of your heart and soul in a place, and now it's time to.
And for you talk about teams are different every year, but you've got those 4 or 5 years that relationship built up, which is interesting, Jimbo, because it starts from the living room. Right?
Oh yeah, anymore it starts from camp.
Yeah,
you start in camp. You're starting now at even younger age, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. Kids. Well, I've had them. Some of them. For instance, LT, for me, who was there, he was at my camp at Florida State when he was 10, 12 years old.
Was he really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So he came to my camp and they put him in the senior group he was in the 6th grade. There's a story behind that, I'll tell you. But I mean, you start knowing those kids. They start coming to your camps. You start doing that. 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 6th grade. I mean, all the way up in those relationships.
And that's what you have said when you have been asked about recruiting. Recruiting is about relationships.
At the end of the day, it's what it's about. It's about trust. It's about honesty. And that's it.
Yeah.
You can go up 100 different ways. You got to have the product and all those things. But at the end of the day, that's what it gets down to.
I just saw this on Monday, and the line was, when you get a player, you don't get the mom's son, you get her heart.
Oh, no doubt. And you get the whole family.
You get the whole family.
Everybody becomes part of that.
Yeah. So you're leading not just that young man. To me, it dovetails with what you've talked about, the scholarship.
Well, they've
and
trusted in you to extend their family and their growth for that young man for that period of time. And that's a great responsibility.
And for these 4 years, it's like it's
3, 4,
always,
5.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5. What was the always thing? Hey, does mom have to tell dad? Right? You're entrusted. You don't want to have to talk to the parents if something goes wrong. Right?
No, you don't. And those kids do. But there's a good relationships there.
Because if there's no relationship, Jimbo, then it's just a transaction.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's hard to play your best.
Right. There's got to be that investment both ways, right? For that, it's fascinating because you say put it on tape, and when they get an opportunity to do that, that's where the investment pays off for all of them, doesn't
exactly.
it? He's Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. We'll continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie football from Learfield. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to give you a VIP Aggie basketball fan experience this year. You can go to 12man.com/maroon contest. That's where you register. One winner and a guest will receive game tickets, a VIP tour of Reed Arena, and you'll be recognized on the video board during the game. Register today at 12man.com/maroon contest. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. Another question for you, Coach, from Ian. What do you look for in a graduate assistant?
Well, first of all, a guy that understands something, who's going to be, you talk about totally selfless, because a GA or graduate assistant is an endless job. It is a tiresome job, and it requires, when you say, what do I got to do? Tell me what you don't have to do. I mean, it's everything. But a guy that is totally committed, and I always tell guys before you do this, if you can coach, if you can live without coaching, go do it. Because if you can't, don't get in it. It's too hard. It's too much, especially as GA, when you have to do all the things you have to do. And for a guy that's dedicated, a guy that's smart, a guy that's intelligent, a guy can learn, and he's committed and truly loves ball and understand. And the other thing, but you got to understand ball. You got to be able to understand ball. And the thing about GAs, too, they're on-the-field guys. They're not analysts. And there's a difference. You can be a great analyst, but when you get on the field, there has to be a presence to be able to control kids, to be able to coach kids, to be able to get kids to do what you want to do, and it's a little bit different. And that's a part of it, too. You got to be able to have a presence to make sure that, you can go out there, because there's only so many. We only have so many. The full-time coaches, the analysts can't coach. It's just the GAs and the full-time coaches. So there's a big responsibility for them to work the scout teams and all the different drills and things you have to do, and sometimes take part of a segment and go work them. And, it's a big responsibility from not just be smart and do it, but you got to have the knowledge to do it, and you have the presence to do it, and the command to do it, and get guys to do it on the field.
Have you had some who said, this is too much?
Oh, yeah.
Have you?
I mean, they got in and say, and after a while, do it and do a good job at it, but then say, I want to see my family.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend 16, 18 hours a day doing what I do,
right.
And that's on a slow day,
And there's no hard feelings there, right?
No.
Right.
They're honest, but you did a good job of what you did. I mean, just like you heard Joe Thomas talk about, I know he was ranting about Jeff Saturday getting that job, but he was talking about living across the street from they played tight end in Miami. I can't think. Was the head coach of the Browns. But anyway, how much he didn't realize. That's why he didn't go into coaching. I mean,
Really?
he's an ex-player, he's a 10-time All-Pro, and all those things. I want to be able to see my family. I want to be able to do things. It's a total life's commitment.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to do that when you're a GA.
Were there players you said they'll be good coaches?
Oh yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
Guys that just ooze with it, live with it, and can't live without it.
Yeah, they make that.
That was us. That was us, and had no life. It was all ball. But I always say it was too dumb to do anything else. But I mean that's the parts of it. I mean you could see the guys that are totally. You got to be enamored with. It's that kind of job.
When did you know that you had that bug? Right, you knew that you were going to be the coach.
I never thought I didn't.
Oh really?
I mean, as far as because. Whether I played and watched film or did that, or when I first started coaching, you literally didn't make 10 cents. I mean, literally didn't.
Right.
I mean, and I had a couple buddies I lived with that were ex-pro, and they were trying to do it. And after, half a year or so, they wanted to get out and do other jobs or go high school, which is nothing wrong with that too. But those hours and the things it did, I never looked at it as work. I just loved to do it, so just did it.
As the quarterback, right? Similar to catchers. Similar to point guards, right? Because of that responsibility of the position. Does it help you next level?
And the amount of knowledge you have to have and the work ethic and the grind and the big picture understanding of how you have to work within a staff, yes.
And you're a leader on the field as well, right?
Oh, yeah, you do. I mean, at those positions and those things you have to do, yes. I mean, you are. And those guys usually make great coaches.
But it's not restricted to just that position, is it?
No. It'd been, great linemen, great linemen, great DBs, great everything.
Yeah.
Specialists, special teams.
No surprise it's a center. Can be right? The centers have to know.
They do.
They've got to know a little bit of everything.
It's amazing.
I'm going
to tell you this, you don't have to play football.
Good point.
You don't have to play. I mean,
right.
You can play. You don't have to play high level. I mean, you don't have to play. Some guys have never played college football, and are really, really good coaches.
Is it sometimes harder? I think of the Ted Williams of the world. Didn't make a great manager. And sometimes we hear in baseball.
Well, the great players don't always make the best coaches. Sometimes they always say because they see the game so differently than everybody else, and sometimes great players. Coaching is not. It's not knowing what to do. It's easy. Like an analyst, you can sit there on TV and say it all day long. You can sit there and be an ex-player and say it all day long. Coaching is about getting what you know across to the guys you're coaching. Just like when you're in command on, whatever you're in command of. A great teacher, it's not how smart she is or how smart he is. It's how they can articulate and make the kids and understand and get their knowledge from their mind into their mind. That's what coaching is. That's what coaching is teaching.
Right.
And like I say, you can sit up there and say 100 times in a row, what's wrong with the team? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? Go coach. And I'm not trying to be, but it's a different game. It's easy to point it out and tell them. It's like everybody knows the problems. You got to fix it. You got to get them to understand it, and who can articulate and get your knowledge into somebody else. That's what it's about. So it's a whole different world.
It's like a teacher. A class is so hard. You're failing everybody. You're not teaching.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly right.
And
you're not understanding. You got to change things. You got to adapt, and it's constant that way. And different people would learn in different ways.
Yeah.
Most athletes are visual learners. Most people are visual learners in what we do. But some guys can learn. There's all different ways of learning. We try to test them that way. When they come in, how do they learn? How do they understand? How you can articulate with somebody. And
you had to adapt not just COVID, but just the way with each generation. Did you
well,
not
that's
that they
the thing
learn
too.
differently?
Yes, sir.
You have to adapt,
It is
don't
now,
you?
this generation now. It's not the grinders. And I don't say not from a work ethic, but I'm saying, like I was saying the other day about we're in tidbit, 15 seconds of this, 15 seconds of that, 20 seconds of that, 30 seconds of that, a minute of that. It's not that hour-long thing. You know what I'm saying? It goes on. You don't see that anymore. Our world's not designed that way.
Right.
Like right there, look at ESPN.
Yeah.
Got to score the game, got 13 things underneath, got something that's coming on next week over here. You're looking at 3 things.
Right.
So your mind, that all affects how you do it.
As Buzz
And you've got to train your mind just like you do your arms, your legs, and your wind and your conditioning. Your mind's the strongest thing you got, but you got to train it to focus and concentrate for a long period of time.
That is a key. Football always had film to go watch, right? That was a key part of the teaching, wasn't it, in the learning?
Yeah, the learning and all those things, and now you got it, but you still got to be able to sit there and grind and do it.
Yeah. Is that also another John Wooden line? You haven't taught. If they haven't learned, you haven't taught?
Yeah, yep. A lot of them go back to him.
Yeah, a lot of them do. And then we have one more segment, but next week I'm asking you about LT, okay? That's going to be a segment next week for that one. One more segment of this edition of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stick around. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Texas A&M Athletics has launched the free 12th Man Rewards Program. Thanks, fans 13 and older, for standing with the 12th man to create a home field advantage for our student athletes and coaches. You can download or log in to the 12th Man mobile app and create your 12th Man Rewards profile today. Attend events, get points, redeem rewards. For details, visit 12thmanrewards.com. Wrapping up this edition of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, and we are back with you next Wednesday. Jimbo's got to do so many of them, so it's or a certain number. Why did I say so many? That made it sounded like.
No. I love doing them. I really do. I love the show,
fun.
and I love the people and the relationships and everything else. I
can't thank everyone enough for being out here every
exactly,
week.
The loyalty and the people coming
Wonderful
every week.
To see y'all.
Exactly right.
See, when we did this during COVID, he learned a little bit too much. He learned that he had to tape 38 minutes, and he was right out the door.
We tape.
Right?
I like coming there. It's great. It's one of the times you get to at least relax a little bit, see everybody and talk. And
you invest in this hour. I've always appreciated that.
Well, it's part of what you do. It's who you are. It's the university you represent, the place you represent, but it's the people here. I really love the people and get the relationships and the friendships. And at the end of the day, isn't that what it's about?
It's exactly what it's about.
We can say all the other things. It's about the people you meet along the way, people who influence you, the people you get to know, the people you learn from, all that. At the end of the day, we make it all about the results of everything, which they are. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, when it's all, that's what you remember. And when I'm done coaching and one of these years old and gray, and you sit back and you think about the shows and the people you sit with and talked with, and we're here every weekend and you talk. That's the truth. That's what you remember.
Or are you going to go to TV? Do TV? Where you can go undefeated, Jimbo?
I'm too honest. I don't know if they want me on TV.
But you had how much fun did you have when you were able to do that secondary channel of the national championship.
Oh,
you and your entire staff.
Did that, and I've done some things on national championship days and bowl games and big games like that.
Yeah.
And I like the TV part of it. I mean, that's not bad. But like I say, I have a hard time, or I really do, in the criticism.
Yeah.
Because I know the answers, and I know the answers. Just because you know the answers doesn't mean that guy's wrong as much as is how do you fix it. It's like when you got a leaky roof. Well, you know it's leaking and you know what the problem is, but you have the money to fix it. Yes, is there somebody available to fix it, or is there somebody there? I mean, and I joke. I mean, that's a microcosm is what I'm trying to say. But and TV today is such a say anything to get my thing and be a burst
social
and be,
media. Hey,
critical.
did you hear what Jimbo said about so
or be critical? I'm an announcer now. It's not report the games. The Keith Jacksons of the world knows things. It's their opinion. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it's that's the only thing I don't like. But I mean, that's what's changed.
See, I'd love to see you with a telestrator though, Madden.
Yes, exactly right. That part would be fun. That's why I like listening to Tony Romo. I mean, he really breaks down the game and tells you what's about to happen, how it's about to happen. And at the times I've heard him, and the X and O's and the true understanding that most people don't get from a thought process from what a quarterback would do, a coach would do, or a player would do. I mean, that gives you the insight. You know what I'm saying? Now, other people don't want to hear that. Some just want to watch a game and want result.
Right.
But that parts of it, I appreciate it as a coach, and his thought processes.
And I love the way he can see things as they're developing, right? And he's seen that look an awful lot.
Well, he's seen that look. He's seen that situation. Here's about what should happen. Here's what things can happen. And here's how and what it does, it gives you how a guy's thinking. You know what I'm saying? And why something happens, and it don't always happen. But people say, well, I don't know why you would do that. But here's how he's thinking based off the number of timeouts, field position, time on the clock, points in the game. You're ahead, you're behind. You know what I mean? The inner workings of that, and most people don't understand that.
No, they don't. So I'd love to be.
But it'd be fun. I mean that part. I'm gonna coach a bunch more. We got a lot of things to get right and do for a long time.
Absolutely.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna fix that and get that right.
Beat the hell out of UMass on Saturday. Thank you so
very much,
Jimbo. Appreciate it. He is Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. UMass on Saturday. 11 o'clock is the kick. 11:02 foot to ball. We'll join you at 10 o'clock with the St. Joseph Health pregame show. Kevin Menchow has been the engineer, as he has all season long, for this show, for Buzz, for Joni Taylor, for the baseball hour in the spring as well. Tony O'Neill's the producer in our Learfield studios. For Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. We'll talk to you on Saturday. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks and gig 'em. This is Aggie Football from Learfield.